All right, today we're heading way, way up north to the northernmost part of our planet, the Arctic. It's this incredible land of extremes ice, snow, but also amazing resilience. And it plays a critical role for, well, every single one of us.
But let me start by asking you a question. Just imagine for a second, what if the world's air conditioner was on the fritz? The one giant system that helps cool the entire planet? Because honestly, in a lot of ways, that's exactly what's happening. And figuring out why is, well, it's absolutely crucial for our future.
Okay, so let's really dive into this. To get the whole picture, we've got to start with how the Arctic actually works as our planet's climate regulator. We're talking about a powerful natural system that's kept things in balance for thousands and thousands of years. And the key to how it does that? It all comes down to something called the albedo effect. Now, it sounds a little sciencey, but the idea is super simple. Think of all that white ice and snow in the Arctic as a giant mirror. It literally reflects a massive amount of the sun's heat right back out into space. And that simple act helps keep the whole planet cool. But, and this is a big but, here's the problem. There's this dangerous feedback loop happening called Arctic amplification. And because of it, the region is warming up at least twice as fast as the rest of the globe. See, as that white reflective ice melts, it exposes the dark ocean water underneath. That dark water absorbs heat instead of reflecting it, which, you guessed it, melts even more ice. It's this vicious cycle that's just spinning faster and faster. Now, it's so important to remember that this isn't just a story about climate science and feedback loops. Not at all. It's also a deeply human story. The Arctic isn't some empty, frozen wasteland. It's a homeland, a place where people haven't just survived, but have actually thrived for millennia, creating this incredible history forged in ice. And just look at this timeline. It shows this incredible arc of human history. We're talking about migrations across the Bering Land Bridge something like 20,000 years ago. Then you have the spread of the Thule culture, who are the ancestors of the modern Inuit. And then, much, much later, the Arctic becomes the backdrop for that, heroic age of European exploration, with guys like Amundsen and Peary pushing human endurance to its absolute limit. And that really gets to the heart of it. The indigenous cultures of the Arctic have this profound, intricate connection to the land, the sea, and the ice. Their resilience and their deep, deep knowledge, that is a central part of the Arctic story. And check this out. This just shows how incredibly ingenious they were. These aren't just some primitive tools. No way. We're talking about highly sophisticated technologies, perfectly adapted for survival. The design of a kayak for hunting in those icy waters, the genius installation of an igloo, these are the kinds of innovations that allowed people to build these rich, complex cultures in one of the toughest environments on Earth. But that world, that resilient world, is now facing its biggest challenge yet. That slow, predictable rhythm of the Arctic, it's gone. We have now entered an age of rapid, frankly unprecedented change. We're calling it the Great Arctic Thaw. The entire system it's in overdrive. And you want to see what that looks like? Nothing shows it more clearly than the loss of summer sea ice. Just look at this chart. You can see the dramatic drop-off since we started keeping track with satellites back in '79. That old, thick ice that used to stick around year after year, it's just disappearing. And it's happening at a really alarming rate. Yeah, the data is pretty stark. On average, we're losing about 13% of the Arctic sea ice every single decade. Let that sink in. This isn't some slow, gradual thing. It is a radical transformation of an entire part of our planet. So, okay, you might be sitting there in London or Tokyo or New York thinking, why does this matter to me? Well, here's why. What happens in the Arctic definitely does not stay in the Arctic. That melting Greenland ice sheet, it's directly causing sea levels to rise globally. That thawing permafrost, it's releasing huge amounts of methane, a really potent greenhouse gas. And all that warming is messing with the jet stream, which is why we're seeing more and more extreme weather events all over the place. And this rapid thaw, it's creating a totally new reality up there. A melting Arctic isn't just an environmental problem, it's actually opening up a brand new frontier. We're talking new economic opportunities and, you guessed it, intense geopolitical competition. The amount of economic potential that was locked away under all that ice is just immense. Estimates suggest the Arctic holds something like 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and a truly staggering 30% of its undiscovered natural gas. And as that ice melts away, all of those resources are becoming accessible for the very first time in human history. This whole situation creates what people are calling the Arctic paradox. It's pretty fascinating. On one hand, you've got these incredible opportunities, right? Shorter shipping routes that could literally change global trade, access to all those resources we just talked about. But on the other hand, the risks are just as huge. Think about a catastrophic oil spill in that fragile ecosystem, more pollution, and growing tensions between countries over who owns what. And believe me, this means all the major powers are paying very close attention. Russia is pouring money into military bases and economic projects along its northern coast. The US and Canada are making it clear what they see as their territory. And you've even got non-Arctic countries like China, who now calls itself a near-Arctic state, getting heavily involved and investing in the region. So, where does this leave us? How does it all circle back? Well, the future of the Arctic isn't just some far-off regional issue. It's really a mirror. It's reflecting our global choices right back at us. It's a shared responsibility for all of us. You could say our future is, quite literally, on thin ice. And let's be absolutely clear about this. The science is not fuzzy here. The rapid warming, the disappearing ice, this new geopolitical scramble, none of it is happening in a vacuum. It is a direct, amplified reaction to everything we as a global society have put into the atmosphere. The Arctic is basically showing us the consequences of our own actions. You know that old saying about the canary in the coal mine? Well, this quote absolutely nails it. The Arctic is that canary for our planet's climate. The super fast changes happening up there, they're basically a sneak peek of what the rest of the world is in for if we just keep going down the same road. So, what's the way forward here? Is there a path? Well, the sources point to a few key things we need to do. First, we've got to boost international cooperation to make sure the region stays peaceful. Second, we have to prioritize conservation and protect these fragile areas. Third, we need to invest in sustainable development and clean energy. And finally, and this might just be the most important one, we have to start listening to and actually using the incredible, invaluable knowledge of the Arctic's indigenous peoples. When you put it all together, the melting ice, the wildlife at risk, the new great game playing out between nations, it's all one clear, unmistakable signal. It's a message being sent from the very top of our world. So the real question, the one that's left for all of us, is, are we listening?